Hello everyone, I'm Jack Fisher and welcome to my world. And to answer the question frequently asked by the Hank Williams Jr.'s of the world, yes, I am ready for some football. I've been ready since the NFL draft. Hell, I've been ready since the end of Super Bowl 55. I just love football that much and I make no apologies for that. But this video is not about my lifelong love of watching NFL football on Sundays. Not entirely anyways. For months now, me and my fellow football fans have been speculating and debating over which teams will contend this year and which teams will collapse completely. Not gonna lie, some of those discussions got pretty heated. But now, we're oh so close to the start of the 2021 season. Very soon, we'll be able to stop speculating and start processing a whole new season. Words just cannot contain the breadth of my excitement at this point. Last year, I made a video that offered my predictions and Super Bowl pick for the 2020 season. It was actually one of the first videos I made for this channel. And fittingly enough, I got a lot of things wrong. Wasn't quite as wrong as I was in the past. I did successfully predict New Orleans and Kansas City would have a big year. But I was way off on so many others. For that, I'd like to sincerely apologize to Eagles fans out there. I really did think Doug Peterson was going to right the ship. But that was last year. This is the 2021 NFL season. It already promises to be very different. While the COVID-19 pandemic isn't over, nearly every stadium is expected to have fans cheering their favorite team once more. And as someone who was not the least bit convinced by the fake crowd noise last year, I welcome that. Now, just like I did last year, I like to share my predictions and picks for the 2021 NFL season. Once again, I'll go through each division and pick a winner, then I'll make my pick for Super Bowl 56. Again, I want to remind everyone that I am no expert. I am as qualified to pick Super Bowl winners as I am to perform brain surgery. This is just me, an overly excited football fan, daring to speculate how this season might play out. In every NFL season, there's often one particular division that seems stacked to the brim with contenders. Last year, at least for a time, the NFC West appeared to be that division. Seattle, Los Angeles, and San Francisco have all been to Super Bowls within the past 8 years. And Arizona became a team on the rise thanks to their rookie quarterback Kyler Murray. And this year, there's a chance that the NFC West could be the most competitive division in the NFL. Yes, it's true that San Francisco had a down year last season due to injuries. They also underwent some major upheaval at the quarterback position. But now, many of those injured players are back. And they've got their quarterback of the future in Trey Lance. But let's also not forget that Jimmy Garoppolo is still there, and he did take the team to a Super Bowl a few years back. But will the 49ers be able to recapture that magic? I honestly don't know. And the fact that they drafted Trey Lance leads me to believe that this team is full of uncertainties. By contrast, the LA Rams have one of the most stacked teams in the NFL. They made one of the biggest moves in the offseason by trading for Matthew Stafford. And for the first time in his professional career, Stafford will be playing behind a quality offense and an elite defense, led by All-Pro Aaron Donald. From top to bottom, this team has the talent, the players, and the coaching to go all the way. If the Rams were in any other division, this would be an easy pick. But they're in the NFC West. They have to play the Seahawks, 49ers, and Cardinals twice a year. And all three of those teams got considerably better in the offseason, especially Arizona. I really like what Kyler Murray is becoming. They're already building a capable offense with DeAndre Hopkins at wideout. And after signing J.J. Watt and Malcolm Butler, they've got some talent on defense as well. And the Seahawks still have Russell Wilson, last I checked, who remains one of the most consistently productive quarterbacks in the division, if not the entire league. The competition will be fierce in the NFC West. I suspect every division matchup is going to have the feel of a playoff game. And those are the kinds of matchups I love in the regular season. But when all is said and done, I think the Rams will come out on top. They just have too many weapons on both sides of the ball. And by winning such a competitive division, they'll enter the playoffs ready and hardened to contend. Let me start by repeating what I said last year. Patrick Mahomes is awesome. He is, by a considerable margin, the best quarterback in the NFL. Even while injured and playing behind a patchwork offensive line, he made it to another Super Bowl. If he's healthy, or even healthy-ish, he makes the Kansas City Chiefs frontrunners to win this division yet again. That being said, I don't think it'll be as easy this time around. The AFC West is one of those divisions that has been in flux lately. The Las Vegas Raiders are starting to emerge, the LA Chargers have a promising young quarterback in Justin Herbert, and the Denver Broncos have maintained one of the top defenses in the league for several years now. I think the Chargers are on the right path, but they definitely need more pieces on defense, and they need more playmaking receivers. The days of Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates are long over. Herbert can definitely help this team compete, but he just doesn't have enough weapons at the moment. The same goes for the Denver Broncos. But I think they're more likely to regress this year, given their uncertainties at quarterback. I've seen nothing to indicate that Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater will be able to carry this team, even with a solid defense. There's a good reason why Denver is a likely destination for Aaron Rodgers should he decide to leave Green Bay. But the Raiders are a team that I think could compete for a wildcard spot. They could also frustrate Kansas City as they did last year during both division matchups. Say what you will about John Gruden and the high turnover of his team, there's still plenty of talent on both sides of the ball, and he has the pedigree to make them contenders. But all three of those teams are still a work in progress. The Kansas City Chiefs are a polished product, one that has proven itself capable of competing at a high level week in and week out. And unless they seriously falter, they have the inside track to win the division and go deep into the playoffs once more. For as long as I've been watching NFL football, certain divisions have confounded me to no end. And historically speaking, the NFC East has been by far the most difficult division to predict. No matter how a particular team looks early in the season, or what those teams do in the offseason, the end result is often unexpected. It's the reason why no team has won the division 2 years in a row since the early 2000s. Because seriously, who thought last year that Washington would win? And with a 7-9 record, no less. And on top of that, they were the only team that was competitive against Tampa in the playoffs. Seriously, I just don't get this division. And we probably won't know the winner until the final week of the season. Now, on paper, the Dallas Cowboys have the most talented team. But that's been the case for years now. But time and again, the Cowboys underachieve at the worst possible time. They do indeed have the best quarterback in the division in Dak Prescott. And even coming off of injury, that's likely to continue this season. On top of that, Dallas has one of the most loaded offenses in the NFL. Both Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb should put up big numbers. But again, this team loves to underachieve. By contrast, Washington often overachieves relative to its talent. Seeing them win the division last year was remarkable, especially given their issues at quarterback. They tried to solve that problem in the short term by signing Ryan Fitzpatrick in the offseason. But even with new talent on offense, it's the defense that will be the key for this team. Between Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and a pretty loaded secondary, Washington is in a good position to win this division again. But history says they will stumble. Washington has a nasty habit of regressing badly every time they make the playoffs. They've been that way since 1999, and until I see otherwise, I cannot give them the benefit of the doubt. But I also don't see New York or Philadelphia closing the gap. Outside Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, the Giants are just bereft of major playmakers. And while Jalen Hurts is a promising young quarterback, the Eagles also have major deficiencies on both sides of the ball. Now, could they somehow get hot at the end of the season and win this division? it's definitely possible. Honestly, I think all 4 teams have a chance to win this division. I know it was a joke last year, but it'll be a lot more competitive this year. But for now, I think Dallas has the best chance to win. The AFC East used to be the easiest division in football to predict. For 2 decades, you could just pencil in the New England Patriots as the winners and usually be right. Between Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and their 6 Super Bowl rings, the gap between them and everyone else was just too immense. That all changed in 2020. Tom Brady is gone, and the Patriots are suddenly vulnerable. The Buffalo Bills took full advantage of that, winning the division for the first time since the 1990s. Josh Allen emerged as a capable quarterback, one who led this team to the cusp of a Super Bowl, and has proven himself capable of hanging with the best in the league. On top of that, the Bills' defense is as stout as any in the NFL. It's safe to say they have a complete team. But is it enough to sustain in the long run? That'll be the big question this year. Because even though the talent gap with the Patriots has narrowed, that gap is still there. We can't overlook just how many of the Patriots' defensive stars sat out last year. We also can't overlook how the Jets and Dolphins continue to struggle to find their quarterback. For the Dolphins, I thought Tua Tagovailoa showed some promise last year, but not nearly enough to convince me that he can carry Miami to the next level. And the Jets, well, there's a reason they haven't had a long-term solution at quarterback since Joe Namath. Now, could their first-round pick, Zach Wilson, finally change that? It's possible, but history says otherwise. And history also says that Bill Belichick finds a way to adapt and adjust. He will usually figure out a way to win despite setbacks and limitations. While I'm not sold on Cam Newton or Mac Jones at quarterback, I think the Patriots are still poised to bounce back this year. It'll be a lot more difficult than it's been in the past. The Bills will certainly put up a fight. But ultimately, I think New England will win this division. It's no longer a given, but until someone other than the Bills raises their game, and as long as Bill Belichick keeps coaching, it's still the Patriots' division to lose. Even before the end of the 2020 season, the NFC North was a division in flux. The dominance of the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers was nearing its end. Hell, one of the biggest offseason stories of the year was Aaron Rodgers' growing dissatisfaction with the team that drafted him. The idea of him being traded or just flat out retiring did not seem out of the question. Even though Rodgers was the MVP and still is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, there's just no getting around it. He is on a team that's underachieving and not putting him in a position to win another Super Bowl. And after seeing what Tom Brady did last year in Tampa, I honestly don't blame him for wanting out. But that's just the Packers. The drama with Rodgers only shrouded other upheavals throughout the division. Another big story in the offseason was the Lions trading away Matthew Stafford after a decade of productive service. And in the 2021 draft, the Bears took Justin Fields from Ohio State, hoping he could be an upgrade over Mitchell Trubisky, who did lead this team to a wildcard spot in the playoffs last year. In addition, the Vikings revamped their offense, letting go of some longtime veterans like Kyle Rudolph and Riley Reiff. And while Kirk Cousins definitely has his share of critics, he has been productive in the Vikings system for the past several years. Every team in this division is in a state of uncertainty. But someone still has to win this division, and I was genuinely impressed by what I saw from Justin Fields in the preseason. However, there's a not-so-great history with Ohio State quarterbacks succeeding in the NFL, going all the way back to the days of Art Schlichter. The Bears also don't have a great history with developing young quarterbacks. The Detroit Lions haven't been very friendly to young quarterbacks either. And while I thought Jared Goff did some great things with the LA Rams, I don't see him succeeding on the same level in Detroit. The Lions enjoyed unprecedented stability at the quarterback position with Matthew Stafford. And even though Goff is younger, he doesn't strike me as the kind of quarterback who can carry Detroit the way Stafford did. Through all this chaos, I think it'll ultimately come back to which team has the most talent and which team knows how to win. And for now, that's still the Green Bay Packers. As of the making of this video, Aaron Rodgers is still in Green Bay, and he still ranks as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's definitely got enough weapons to win this division, but this may be his last time doing so for the Packers. For many years, the AFC North was basically a coin flip. It was just Ravens versus Steelers, and that was it. These two teams were among the best rivalries in the NFL. Every game felt like an old school slugfest. And whoever was the better of these two teams would win the division, plain and simple. Now, it's not so clear-cut anymore. The Browns, yes, the Cleveland frickin' Browns, have emerged as contenders. They actually made the playoffs last year. They won a playoff game for the first time since 1994. I was still in grade school in 1994. Granted, they almost collapsed in that fateful game against the Steelers, but they didn't. And in the NFL, winning inspires winning more than anything. But will that be enough to carry them to a division championship this year? Well, that's a tricky question to answer. Because watching the AFC North last year felt like watching a drag race in which every car had faulty fuel lines. Yes, the Steelers started the season 11-0, but they were the worst 11-0 team in NFL history. Which I know is a weird thing to say. But when they lost to Washington on a Monday night game, you could sense that this team was a house of cards. And I think the Steelers didn't do enough to change that in the offseason. While stability has been the hallmark of Pittsburgh since the late 60s, I think it's been a bit too stable lately. Ben Roethlisberger is a great quarterback, and he's probably going to the Hall of Fame. But he is just not what he used to be. Every year, it seems, he seems to deal with a serious injury towards the end of the season. And as a result, the team just lags and falters. Since his successor doesn't appear to be on the roster at the moment, I just can't see the Steelers dominating like they once did. This is not the era of Troy Polamalu and James Harrison anymore. It's also not the era of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed in Baltimore either. Because last year also left me wary of betting on the Ravens. While I do think they're a more complete team than the Steelers, I also felt they really regressed last year. After his MVP season, the NFL just caught up to Lamar Jackson, as it often does. And history says that once this happens, it's very difficult for a quarterback to succeed. We saw it happen with Robert Griffin III. We saw it happen with Mark Sanchez. Could we see it with Lamar Jackson? I don't know, but I don't think the team improved enough to carry him if he regresses. And while I do think the Cincinnati Bengals are on the right track, I don't see them competing this year. They're going to need another offseason to catch up to the rest of the teams in this division. And as weird as this is to say, I feel like the Cleveland Browns have the most playmakers in the division. Between Baker Mayfield coming into his own and all the defensive talent they signed in the offseason, like Jadeveon Clowney, I'm legitimately sold. History may say that Cleveland will regress, as it often does when it gains a little bit of success. But for the 2021 season, I'm willing to take that chance. I actually think they'll win the division this year. And for all we know, the apocalypse may soon follow. Last year, the NFC South was the most intriguing division in football. You had Tom Brady and Drew Brees playing twice a year, and you still had Matt Ryan and Julio Jones in Atlanta, which were very capable of competing with the best of the best. But, as we've come to expect over the past couple decades, Tom Brady eventually came out on top. The sheer glut of talent in Tampa Bay was just too much for anyone to overcome. And this season, it might be even easier for the GOAT to repeat. I know that hardly seems fair. First, Brady gets to spend 2 decades in the perpetually weak AFC East, feasting on division rivals who can't find a stable coach or quarterback. Now he goes to the NFC South just in time for Drew Brees to retire and for Matt Ryan to lose his favorite receiver. It almost feels like the football gods are playing favorites at this point. Now, I won't mince words. I'll be shocked if Tampa Bay doesn't run away with this division. they may very well have it locked up by the first week of December. New Orleans is still good, but they have some big shoes to fill, and I just don't see Jameis Winston playing on the same level as Drew Brees. I also don't see Matt Ryan being any better without Julio Jones to throw to. In fact, I suspect his time in Atlanta may be waning. And the Carolina Panthers have a long way to go to catch up to everyone. All the while, Tampa basically re-signed all their starters and gave Brady another year to master this offense. I honestly don't see how it could be any easier for him. The only real question is how much Bruce Arians will rest his starters before the playoffs. Barring serious injury, Tampa Bay is going to win this division. I feel like I can say that with confidence. And Tom Brady will be in a position to win his 8th Super Bowl. And we, the football fans of this world, are just going to have to deal with it. Of all the divisions in the NFL, the AFC South tends to change the most from year to year. For the longest time, the Indianapolis Colts dominated with Peyton Manning under center. Then, the Houston Texans dominated with J.J. Watt leading a dominant defense. But things got chaotic with the early retirement of Andrew Luck. After that, it became harder and harder to predict how this division would play out from year to year. None of the teams were exceptionally great, but none of them were exceptionally inept. That seems to have changed recently with the emergence of the Tennessee Titans. Since Mike Vrabel took over as coach, this team has become a force to be reckoned with in the AFC. With Derrick Henry being the best back in the league and Ryan Tannehill coming into his own at quarterback, the Titans have really separated themselves from the rest of the pack. That gap only widened in the offseason when they traded for Julio Jones. And even if Jones isn't as dominant as he was in Atlanta, he still provides a big target on a team that already had a solid offense. Now, earlier this year, I would have said the Titans had plenty of obstacles ahead of them. Deshaun Watson was still in Houston, and the Colts just reunited Carson Wentz with Frank Reich, a combination that helped the Philadelphia Eagles win the Super Bowl in 2017. But even before the preseason, that all changed. There's still no certainty that Watson will play for Houston this year, or anyone given his current off-the-field issues. And Carson Wentz has proven time and again that he cannot avoid injury. In the NFL, one of the best capabilities is availability, and he is just not capable right now. As for the Jaguars, they're very much a wild card. That entire team has been overhauled with the arrival of coach Urban Meyer. And picking Trevor Lawrence with the first overall pick in the NFL draft this year has them poised for a promising future. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they competed for the division this year. Yes, the Titans are a more complete team, but they still have plenty of vulnerabilities. And Jacksonville would only need to get hot at just the right time to exploit them. While that's very possible, I don't think it's very probable. So for now, I'm picking the Titans to win this division. They have the most going for them, but they'll still have to work for it. With these division leaders leading the pack, I believe the NFC playoffs will be more lopsided than usual this year. The talent disparity between the top seeds and the wildcard teams looks pretty vast. This year, I think Washington, Atlanta, and Seattle will enter as wildcard teams. I even think Seattle and Washington could pull off upsets in the first few rounds. But in the end, the LA Rams just have too much firepower. They have the league's best defensive player in Aaron Donald. They also have a very capable quarterback in Matthew Stafford. I can easily see them as the top seed in the NFC. And no matter who they face in the NFC Championship game, be it Green Bay, Dallas, or Tampa, I think they'll be favored. They'll still have to work for it, especially if they have to play Tampa Bay. Hell, a Tampa-LA championship game could be even more heated than the Super Bowl. But ultimately, I think the Rams will still come out on top. As for the AFC, the gap between the Chiefs and everyone else isn't quite as wide. Last year, defenses did seem to catch up with Patrick Mahomes. And teams like the Raiders, Titans, and Browns did plenty to frustrate him. For that reason, I don't think it'll be easy for the Chiefs to get back to the Super Bowl this year. even if they're the top seed. In fact, I think their streak of appearing in the Super Bowl will end this year. Patrick Mahomes is still great, but I don't think the Chiefs did enough in the draft or the offseason to build around him. They'll still carry this team to the brink of another Super Bowl, but I believe another team will win out and advance to Super Bowl 56. And I believe that team will be the Tennessee Titans. That's right, my Super Bowl matchup for 2021 is the Los Angeles Rams versus the Tennessee Titans. Both teams have been trending in the right direction for a number of years now. Both teams have all-pro talent on both sides of the ball. I think them matching up in the Super Bowl will show just how far they've come. But who will ultimately triumph? It'll be a hell of a matchup. The Tennessee Titans and the LA Rams are two hungry teams looking to prove themselves. And they'll have to overcome some heavy hitters along the way. The Rams will likely have to go through Tom Brady. The Titans will have to go through Patrick Mahomes. That'll leave them both very confident heading into the Super Bowl. But in the end, only one team can hoist the Lombardi Trophy. And when all is said and done, when the confetti starts flying in SoFi Stadium, the Rams' home field no less, I believe the Rams will be the victors. Again, they have the best defensive player in the league in Aaron Donald. They also have one of the best young coaches in the league in Sean McVay. And they have a quarterback in Matthew Stafford who has never had a team like this to carry him. Let's not forget, this is a team that came very close to winning a Super Bowl a few years back with Jared Goff. I believe this year they'll finish the job with Matthew Stafford, defeating the Tennessee Titans 23-20. It would be a hell of a way to celebrate that beautiful new stadium. It would also be a Hollywood ending to the season. We all know how much the NFL and their fans love those. As I said last year, and as I'll probably say every year, I am not an expert. I could be dead wrong with all these predictions. But that's the beauty of the NFL. You never know what to expect. Teams that seem like championship contenders collapse. Teams that seem lost just get hot at the right time. Unexpected stars emerge, and unfortunate injuries change the course of an entire season. From week to week, it'll be exciting to watch. I'll certainly be watching closely, and I certainly don't expect all my predictions to pan out. Hell, I expect most of them to be wrong or inaccurate, if only in part. But I'm still ready. I am so ready for some football, and I look forward to seeing the 2021 NFL season kick off. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for joining me in my world. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, take care and stay safe.